Thank you. So, Olivia, if you want to start sharing your screen. So we actually released the courses feature in CoachVantage not too long ago, a few months ago. And we did it because as coaches, you are often having different types of offers, be that one-on-one, be that group coaching, and even courses sometimes. And what we did find and hear from coaches is that you are using, or you may be using, a separate course platform for your courses, which is, I would say, more dedicated to creating courses. However, it might be lacking in the coaching aspect. And with courses in CoachVantage, it allows you to easily create your course as part of your coaching offer. And you can use it to easily invite your existing contacts or clients to sign up for a course, or you might actually use courses as a low barrier of entry to get to know you better and your expertise, and then offer that from the courses on to group coaching or to your premium one-on-one coaching. So we've made that transition a lot more seamless and easier using the course feature, and so that it can really provide you with a seamless management of all of your offers in one place. As well, it also gives your clients a unified experience so that they're not having to go from one tool to another to access the various types of coaching offers that you have. So with that, I will hand over to Olivia to just give you a quick run through of how that can be created in the CoachVantage platform. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the chat and we'll take the questions later.
Yes, well, thanks so much, Glenn, and thank you everyone for being here. We're really appreciative of your time. So I will go ahead and dive in. So when you want to create a new course, simply select this button here, and you can create a new course and generate it via AI or show it manually, create it manually. What I'll do is I'm going to show you how easy it is to just get like the bones of your course really started by selecting Generate with AI. So to do this, we recommend that you have kind of a prompt that you put in here. So you'll want to be sure to include the course topic, target audience, learning outcomes, number of modules, and lessons per module. So I have something here. The course title is From Burnout to Balance. I have the target audience, and I have, what the learner will get from it. And I kind of said, create 3 modules with 3 lessons per module. Just as a quick note, Vanta, our AI builder, does not generate your proprietary content or write scripts for you. It builds the organizational architecture, the course structure, modules, and lesson descriptions, which you can then easily edit and drop your videos or files into. So you'll see here that the course has been created. We have several steps that I'll kind of give you an overview about. So first, course title, From Burnout to Balance. You have course categories. You can also actually add categories if you want to. You can also make your own categories here for your courses. There's also a course landing page URL. In this case, it already took from Burnout to Balance, but you can edit that here. And scrolling down further, you'll see that the course description has been created. And of course, you can edit it to your liking. You can, bold it, add links, etc. So that's pretty much the first step of building out your course, is having that course info section. The next step is curriculum. And essentially, every course curriculum has modules. So there's, for example, in this one, there's 3 modules and there's 3 lessons in each module. And so essentially, you can see here that we have the burnout cycle as 1 lesson. And if I click on here, you will see the lesson details. So you have the title of the course. You can have a short description, an overview that's already been populated, which is pretty remarkable. And then within each lesson, there is a primary content type. So that can either be text, video, audio, or a document. For some coaches, they might want to upload a video, or they might want to have like a private YouTube video that you can upload here. So there's a lot of possibilities. There's
Hey,
also
Olivia.
lesson content. Yeah, of course. Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if it's just me, but it looks like you're okay. There we go.
Mhm.
The screen was kind of like just duplicating over each other, but I don't know if it was
Oh,
just me.
oh,
Yeah,
weird.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Thanks for noting that. Yes, so there's also lesson content that you can put here. And then also you can give your learners an idea of the estimated duration of a lesson. So for example, if you think this lesson will take 60 minutes, you could write 60 in there. Um, and then scrolling down further, there's a lesson thumbnail that you can add that kind of represents the lesson as the learners are going through and looking at the lessons they have upcoming. And then also you can add supplementary materials to the lesson. So these might be PDFs or MP3 files. You can just add your resource here, and then it can either be a link or a file upload. And then lastly, for every lesson, you have settings. So you can have the lesson in like draft mode, meaning that it would not yet be published for learners. You can also allow lesson comments, allow lesson notes, and allow lesson preview. So there's a lot of different components to each lesson, and we really make it super easy for you to customize it according to how you want it to look. Also, I will, before moving on to course fees, I'll also point out here that you'll be able to see the status of every lesson here. So you can see whether or not it's a drafted lesson or published lesson.
And here, if you look at,
So,
if you just go
mhm,
back to the
yeah.
curriculum, so the benefit
Mhm,
of using AI here is that you don't have to go and think too much about the description of each module or lesson. The AI will generate
mhm.
that for you. And as Olivia mentioned, what you'll just need to upload is the videos that you might have, or your PDF documents, or even audio files. But it's done most of the heavy lifting, so that you can just
Right.
go in and edit it if you need to. But it's really done a lot of the initial, like, the marketing copy and the description of your modules and lessons already. Thanks, Olivia.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Glenn. Awesome. So next, I'll briefly show you, of course, there's a course fees component. And here you can add payment options. So we basically give you the option of adding either both or just one or the other, one-time payment and also an installment plan. So in this case, if you wanted to add a one-time payment, maybe it's something like this. You can also display a strike-through price if you have a certain promotion going on. And so that's pretty much the way you would set up your fees for courses. And next, I'd go to, oh, I forgot to select Stripe. Perfect. Next, you'd go to the landing page component. And basically, this is you building out what that page will look like for the learner to sign up for your course. So this is completely customizable from the colors to the text. So I'll show you here. First, you can upload a banner image. And to do that, you can select this little pencil icon here and upload the banner. And then scrolling down further, you'll see just the full page and how easy it is to edit. So, for example, here's the course title, here's the description, here are all the reasons why someone should take this course. And if you want to edit those, you would simply select this pencil icon here. And if you click on benefits, this is right here, the way you would go ahead and just press that pencil icon to just go ahead and, let's say, edit a word or edit a sentence. You can also actually edit the feature icons, which is really fun too. So once again, you can make it completely customizable to your brand. And you just press save changes at the bottom once you've made your edits. So similarly, you can press the pencil icon up here to edit this section. Again, colors are customizable. You can edit why choose this course, the learning outcomes. You can add testimonials here and edit the frequently asked questions. And then lastly, edit, the way that this looks the enrollment, the enroll now button, etc.
So the landing page is
Yeah,
all
anything you'd like to
pre-built
add?
and
Mhm.
saves you a lot of time as well. You just need to go in and edit
Totally.
whatever you want to customize it.
Yes, absolutely. And so, of course, when someone clicks on Enroll Now, you're able to ensure that you have this page looking like how you want it to look. You might want to add terms and conditions, etc. And then lastly, you can customize the thank you page and what it has on it here. So that's pretty much the landing page in a nutshell. And lastly, we have course settings. So we know that a lot of coaches want to be able to customize the email that gets sent out to learners. So that's exactly what you can do here. So first, you'll notice that there's like a course invitation template, course enrollment confirmation template, direct enrollment template. So we kind of have you covered here. And I definitely want to point out we also have this coaching upsell template that makes it really easy to like upsell your other programs and whatnot. Also, I'd like to point out that we have what we're calling magic tags. So if you click here, you will see magic tags are basically what allow you to insert, like, let's say, a client email, client first name. You can even insert for one-on-one programs, like a specific program that you might recommend for them to sign up for, like after completing your course or something like that. So we make it very easy for you to customize all of these different emails that go out to learners. Anything
So
you'd like to
those
add, Glenn?
programs, then the magic tags are actually all are pulled from your one-on-one programs or your group coaching. So it's the links to those. So if you just insert those magic tags, it's going to say, "Hey, thanks for taking my course. Here is the group coaching you might find interesting that you want to sign up to, or here is my one-on-one coaching." Because oftentimes you might see that learners in your course will maybe want to go deeper with you and learn more, and that's the opportunity for you to do the upsell or to schedule the email that gets sent maybe like 7 days after the course or 3 days after the course, just to invite them to sign up with you for your coaching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, so now that we've gone through how to build your course and like looking at the back end, I'm going to now show you sort of what it looks like to manage a course. And I'm going to do that from this course that's already been built out. So when you click on this green button, Manage Course here at the bottom, you will see that this is how you actually invite contacts to your course. So when you select this invite contacts to course button, this is a very important screen. So you will see it says, how would you like to enroll your contacts into your course? So option one is enroll them immediately without payment collection. Perhaps they paid you a different way or whatnot. Option two is send them an email to sign up from the course landing page. So you'll definitely want to be sure to select the option that works for you. And then you can go ahead and simply select somebody who you'd like to invite into the course, or you can invite multiple people. And when you scroll down, just press that green send invite button and they will be enrolled into the course. So that's where you can manage everybody. You can see who's been enrolled, invited, suspended, completed the course, etc. You can also actually see their course progress from this view. Another component of courses that I'd like to point out is there is a wall, a community wall. So think of this kind of like a Facebook group wall. So in this example here, Jessica, the coach, has actually made a post and the different learners can comment on it. They can upload photos, videos, etc. So it's a way to really foster that community among your learners. And lastly, this is where in the comment section, this is where learners can actually comment on lessons. And as a coach, you can reply to those comments. You can, check mark it as read and things of that nature. So there's a lot of ways in which you can be sure to engage with your learners. All right, I will now go ahead and show you quickly before I wrap up here the client portal view of what they see when they look at a course. And then I will hand it over to Karen. So I'm actually going to go ahead and share a different screen here for a second. All right, so we are currently in Jade Wilson, the client portal. And when she goes to her dashboard, there is this course. And when it's clicked on, this is what she will see. So she's actually at lesson 2 in module 1. And this is a YouTube video that was used as the primary content type. And then scrolling down, this is that overview that she would see. And this is where she can leave a comment, have notes to herself, things of that nature. So yeah, it makes it super easy for her to just go through. She can mark a lesson as completed. And in this case, it's actually a whole module that's been completed. And so that's pretty much like what she would see on her end. She can also see the community wall here by selecting the wall. And that's how she can comment back and things of that nature. So Glenn, anything you'd like to add?
No, I'd like to get feedback from all of you here to see like maybe just a show of hands or just to see who's actually using courses now in your offers or who's going to start on that. Great, Carol. Great, Michael.
Yay. We're so excited.
And are you using CoachVantage for that or some other platform right now? Is CoachVantage? Okay, cool.
CoachVantage. It's one of the reasons why I chose it. It was so easy.
Awesome. Thank you. So,
Can I ask a question, Glenn? Is it truly as easy as it looks? I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing this. That really looks pretty slick. Is it that easy?
that was a live demo that you saw that wasn't a recorded one. So it was pretty quick. I mean, if you can use the AI prompt to get started very quickly, what you probably should do beforehand is just set up your content, like your videos. And you can either have the video links inserted, whether they're hosted on YouTube, Wistia, or Vimeo, or you can upload a file, a video file. But obviously, those are usually very heavy in terms of their size, and so it might take time to upload them. So it's probably best to use another hosted platform and just use the link so that the videos will render much more quickly.
Very cool.
Thank you. So thanks, Karen. And actually, at this stage, I'd like to also introduce you all to Karen Gilhooly. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did. Good.
Karen is a leadership strategist, speaker, and author of The Three Bucket Leader. And she has, for over 2 decades, been helping leaders from frontline managers to C-suite executives to cut through the noise, reclaim their time, and lead with purpose. And her mission is to provide practical tools that help leaders align their energy, influence, and impact. So I'm not going to steal more of your thunder, Karen. Over to you. Please share with us and let me know if I should also be sharing the presentation deck that you're going through as well.
Okay, well, maybe I'll just have a couple minutes and then we'll pull the deck up.
Sure.
So Glenn invited me to join you today to talk about the way I approach the coaching environment, and also to talk a little bit about a tool that I've encountered, more as a way to just make you aware of it. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just letting you know how I do it and what it's meant to me. And that tool that we're going to cover in today's session is called AQ, or Answer Intelligence. And that is sponsored or created by a fellow named Dr. Brian Grodkowski here in the States, who did his thesis as well as several other large research projects on the idea that in today's world, we do not communicate effectively. And I know that sounds kind of crazy because all of us are communicating right now in one way or another. And Brian's thesis is that we know how to ask questions, but we don't necessarily know how to answer them. And when I first engaged with Brian, I thought that his approach actually was a bit of malarkey. And if you guys don't know what that means, it's the Irish term for a bunch of rubbish, things that don't make any sense. And after engaging with the approach for just a short while, I realized that, in fact, not only was Brian onto something, that by making some very small corrections to the way I communicated, that I could have a bigger and more profound effect on my clients, and that teaching these things to my clients would also have an exponential effect on the way that they were trying to resolve some of the challenges I was working with them on. So with that said, why don't we bring up the presentation, and I promise not to bore you to tears. This is really more of an opportunity just to do a little bit of exploring, open your eyes to some new ideas, and see where it goes from there. Okay, so Glenn, can you drive for me?
I will, if I can find. I've got the file up.
This is why I gave the responsibility to drive for driving to Glenn. So, because I'm a terrible driver, both in reality and on Zoom.
Okay, here we go. Can you
There
see
we
the
There we
PowerPoint
go.
document?
There we go.
Yes,
Go
we
to,
can see the PowerPoint.
can see it.
Yeah, and just
Wonderful.
to add to what Karen just mentioned, I did look at the tool which Brian demoed to me. I thought it was interesting, and I thought that it would be interesting to hear from Karen how she uses it in her own coaching and facilitation, to see, how she uses the tool to coach leaders in how they elicit responses, right? So I thought it was interesting. So over to you, Karen.
Okay, very good, very good. So let's move to the next page. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I'm not a coach by years of my profession. I was coaching in my previous role, my structured role, as I call it. I worked for global banking, and I consider my career to have two bookends to it. One that started with Citibank at the beginning of my career and ended with HSBC at the end. And then in between, I did a variety of work with fintechs and payment processors and that type of thing. Um, Always in a role where either as a manager, a director, or a senior leader, it seemed that forever I was the lucky one to be assigned to the most dysfunctional team. And I know when I say that, it sounds like I'm being sarcastic. I actually did view having a dysfunctional team as a badge of honor, because I was the one they trusted to turn it around. And that's what I did time and time and time again, using a variety of techniques that I now use in my coaching environment. So I work with executives and leadership teams, predominantly group settings as opposed to one-on-ones, but I do work with a fair amount of one-on-one people as well, through my business today. So in addition to coaching, I do a variety of other things. I'm very heavily involved in spreading the good word about workplace energy through my podcast, through my book, through a lot of thought leadership stuff that I push out there on a regular basis. And quite frankly, I have to say that at this stage of my life, while I may not be making as much money as I did when I was at the bank, I'm having a whole bunch more fun, and feeling like I'm making a very big difference in the way people are able to engage with this important aspect of their life, which is their work. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. So I'd like to just give you a brief overview of what answer intelligence is. And we're going to start with this idea of what. So in Brian's vernacular, there are three predominant answer types. The first has to do with a concept. And what Brian says is that for each of these three answer types, there is an A and a B answer. The A being more logical and more explicit in terms of kind of the technicalities of what the concept is. or what the information is. And then the right side, or the secondary piece, is the more emotional or colorful way of being able to describe it. And what he says is that when you pair these two sides of an answer together, you actually end up with a very powerful way of being able to share your thoughts, because all of us have a tendency to lean towards one side or the other. Very rarely do you find somebody that's stuck squarely in the middle. You usually find somebody that's either a hardline analytic person or a hardline emotional person. And you've probably figured out by now that I'm one of the people that goes far to the right with the way that I like to express myself, which is interesting because Brian himself is very far to the left. And that's why he and I might get along together so well. I guess opposites attracting. So let me just explain the way that this works. So in Brian's framework, his strong recommendation is that when you start any conversation, that you start with the what. And at first, I argued with him quite heavily because there's a lot of work out there, an abundance of information that says that you should start with the why, not the what. The why. Start with why. Simon Sinek has made a whole career out of saying that. Start with why. But Brian's point, which I now agree with, is that if you start with why, and you don't take the time at the beginning to actually establish the what, you could very easily end up in two very distinct places because you haven't actually locked in on what it is that you're talking about. So having that foundational what is important. And when we're talking about what, there's two ways of answering a what question. The first is with a concept. So being able to explain exactly what it is that you're talking about and how it operates, and maybe give 3 points that support it. And then to flavor that up a little bit, to throw in a metaphor. And that would be being able to show some type of a bridge between what it is that you're saying and something that is locked in reality in some type of case. So put a little seasoning on it, so to speak. So those are the two answers for what. The why is usually the next one. And so if you're going to talk about what it is, then you might want to explain to somebody why you're talking about it. And here you're talking about theory and potentially a story. So this is why I believe this. This is my theory. This is my reason to believe it to be so. And I'm actually going to tell you a little story about that as to where I've seen it happen or why I believe that. And then last in the sequence is the procedure and action, which is very closely aligned. Procedure being the steps to actually get something done, and then the action being some flavor into how you might get it done. So an example might be walk from here to the corner, and that would be a procedure. An action might be, and do it at a pace that is comfortable for you. That would be an action. So those are the three distinct categories and the answer types. And I know that this sounds like a little bit of gobbledygook right now, but theoretically, when you are answering a question, you will find yourself being able to match up with those three answer types in any way if you train your ears to talk about that. Now, the reason that this is important is that in his research, Brian was able to show that over 90% of the people who are engaging in conversation, which is all of us, when we're asked a question, we answer it the wrong way. How crazy is that? And I myself was one of these people. Any question that was asked of me, I would either have a metaphor or a story to tell them. It didn't matter if they were asking for a procedure. It didn't matter what they were asking. I found my way cloaking my answer in an incorrect and inappropriate answer type for the question. And it didn't completely stymie the way that people heard me. But I will say this. Since I've been able to organize my thinking and my approach, the effectiveness of being able to get the message across the first time has absolutely rocketed off the charts and made a big difference in the way that I communicate. All right, let's go to the next stage, the next page here. Okay, so this is where I think, this is how I think that it helps me in my coaching practice. And again, what we're doing here is talking about how I actually use this in the moment. So when I'm working with people and I'm listening to them, what I find is that over the abundance of issue has to do with their communication style. Now, there may be some other things that get thrown in there, of course, but by and large, foundationally, almost every person that I work with, whether it's individually or as part of a team, there is a communication problem that's standing in the way. And what AQ does is, by using these techniques that I just explained to you, it helps me figure out how to help this person get back on track with whatever the communication gap might be. Now, I don't know if any of you think of it this way. I mean, I know that coaching has a lot of different varieties, and depending on the type of coaching you're doing, you might find communication to be more of an issue than perhaps than other types. But when I'm working with them, it helps me to be able to understand what the problem is, to help them understand how to match their message to the moment, and for the most part, to be able to speak with a level of confidence that perhaps they wouldn't have otherwise. So I think that by being able to actually nail your responses, and through that process actually be in a place to develop better questions too, I think that really does help them. So let's move to the next slide, Glenn. Okay, so the way I approach things is my approach in the market is called the executive impact method. And I don't think that there's anything particularly revolutionary about the way I approach things, but since a lot of people ask, well, what's your methodology? I felt the need to actually put it down there. So my method starts with being able to diagnose what the problem is, to strategize with the client or the organization on how we're going to fix it, come up with the plan to execute, and then to scale. And as we're looking at this, when I tie the AQ proposition to it, you can see that, again, it starts with the what is it that we're working on, trying to understand what the strategy might be, and then figuring out the steps with procedure and action. And when we're scaling this and bringing it to the larger organization, or actually underway with resolving what the gap issue is, we're using all 6 different types of answers. So let's go to the next slide, Glenn. So for me, probably the biggest area, as I mentioned before, is that this approach has made me sharper. It helps me communicate more effectively with my clients, but then it also helps them carry this forward into their working environment. And so you'll see what we have, a shared diagnostic language that I can use with them to be able to pinpoint why their answers didn't respond the right way or how their message didn't land. It does have the ability to create a bigger, deeper, lasting impact because we're sharing something new and expanding the horizons. And last but not least, what I found is that as I'm working with people, one of the reputations that goes along with my name is the fact that we do spend so much time trying to make sure that the messages land and clarify and land clearly with emphasis. And that is something that people actually approach me with to do work with them. So a way to get started with this potentially is to think about how you are responding to your clients, how they are talking to their audience in whatever fashion that might be, and how this might be able to help them. Let's go to the next slide, Glenn. And last but not least, I guess the one thing that I wanted to share with you is since I've entered this market now, which is probably very young as it's related to some of you. I know many of you have been in the coaching business for quite a long time. I've only been in this market for about 4 years now. But even in that short amount of time, what I've seen is that the number of people doing coaching is exploding. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think that there's a lot of people fed up with the structured world. I think that COVID caused people to take a look at what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they just weren't getting that strong resonance with their daily life after they came out of it. And let's face it, to the outside world, coaching looks pretty damn easy, but it's not easy, is it? This is not an easy business to be in. It's hard to find your clients. It's hard to work with them sometimes. It's hard to get paid. I mean, this is a tough business. It's not for the faint of heart by any stretch, but yet the market every day, there's more and more people tumbling into it. And it just creates a sea of opportunity for someone that might be looking for a coach. So I think having something that distinguishes you always is a great idea, unique value proposition. I'm not telling you guys anything new because clearly you're on this call because you understand that concept already. What I'm saying here is that this answer intelligence proposition is yet one more nail in that quiver, one more nail in that toolbox, an arrow in your quiver, to be able to attract new and different types of clients and to potentially be able to charge a little bit more. I do differentiate when we're working with an AQ proposition. I'm able to increase my fees by about 20% when I'm using this approach. And one of the reasons why I'm able to do that is this program does come with a practice tool that we use in helping the coachee, learn how to use these different skills in different ways. So the additional benefit of having an opportunity to practice this in a self-guided software platform really does make a difference, and people are willing to pay for that. And so that's an extra advantage that I bring to the table for them. Can we go to the next slide? So I just wanted to show you very briefly what this practice tool looks like. Highly customizable. Now, well, let me just back up for just a second. In no way are these screenshots going to be able to compete with what Olivia did with putting together the whole coaching proposition. It doesn't even, it's so remotely distinct from that I actually feel embarrassed that we're going to show these screens right now. But it'll give you enough of a flavor to see what I'm talking about, hopefully. It's not a full-blown demo by any stretch, but just really more of an appetizer round for what I'm talking about. So the AQ demo platform, if you will, allows you to be able to set up a variety of practice sessions where you're working with different answer types and different types of scenarios. And that can be used either in a self-driven proposition where someone works with the platform independently, or the other feature, which we're not going to spend a lot of time looking at today, does offer a group facilitation mode where you can use various types of questions in a group forum for debate on what the appropriate answer might be. So this program does allow for both options to be utilized by the coaching scenario. So in this case, what would happen is you would see the situation that we're working with here. So it's a situation between Brian, and that actually is Brian, the founder of AQ. He doesn't look like that, though. He looks very stern and angry in this picture, and I've asked him to actually get one where he's smiling, but he doesn't listen to me for some reason. I think he'd be far more approachable if he had a smile on his face. He said, "That is smiling, Karen." I don't think so. Every time I see that picture, it makes me laugh. So this is a scenario where Brian would be the manager and the direct report is Henry. And in this case, the coaching client would be Brian. And so it gives us an opportunity to fill out a short scenario underneath what the appropriate action is or what the situation is. And so this is where the employee was passed over for a promotion, and the manager needs to be able to respond with a question as to why that happened and what the potential next steps might be to get that back on track. And it also gives us an opportunity to throw in other different types of frameworks like DISC or Gallup StrengthsFinder or any of those other types of programs. If we want to use that as a background proposition for how our answers come together, we can show that as well. And then anything that we know about the person who's going to be on the other side of the equation, in this case, Henry, the direct report, who we already know is upset because he was passed over for the promotion. So this would be the setup screen for what we're going to practice. Now let's go to the next slide, Glenn. So once we've got the scenario baked in, the next thing that comes is we say, how might this conversation go? Now, again, remember I said in Brian's world, everything starts with what. So the program defaults to giving you a starting place with the concept, the what proposition, but theoretically you can go anywhere you want if the style requires it. So this is giving us an opportunity to be able to identify some additional components that might show up in the scenario that we're practicing for. So, and you'll see those listed on the screen on the left-hand side. Now, what's interesting is that once you put the scenario in on the previous screen, AI is going to come in and start to generate these different scenario characteristics for you. And so you'll have at least 6 that will be listed on the screen. I can change these up, I can modify them, I can totally replace them if I want. But for the most part, what I've been finding, and I've been working with this now for almost 2 years, is that the stuff that comes up on the screen is almost deadly accurate. It's scary sometimes when we look at how closely aligned it is with the circumstance that we're practicing for. So we'll pick a few of these different areas to throw into the mix. Okay, let's go forward, Glenn. And then what happens is it will show the answer on the screen, a base answer, and it will allow the person then to be able to take what's showing on the screen and be able to voice that in their own words. So here it'll show the question, it'll give you some very basic elements as to what needs to go into the answer, and then the person can either type their answer in or just say it, and the system will record it, and then it will come back and it will give the person a score. Now, this is the difference, I think, in many different platforms that are out there related to communication, is that they'll do all of those different things, but they don't score it. And so what happens then is that the person doesn't have a point of comparison. Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? And then on top of that, what are the components of my score? In this case, what it tells us is that we have a score for clarity, for impact, and for practical connection to whatever the circumstance might be. And that allows me, as the coach, along with the individual, to gauge and track and monitor the progress based on different types of scenarios that we might be operating in. And that, to me, is really great, because one of the things I see, especially when I'm working with senior executives, is they love the facts. They love something that drives them to say, I'm making progress, I'm moving forward. Today, I'm better than I was yesterday. And that if there were no other reason for using this tool, that is one of the reasons that makes my job a little bit easier when we're talking about making progress in someone's life. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think that might be the end, right? So again, just a quick overview of what it is, how I use it, how it differentiates me. And certainly, if any of you are interested in learning a little bit more about it, please let Glenn know. And again, this was not a sales call. This was just an opportunity to share something with you that's a little bit different. And that's what Glenn is trying to do with these coffee chats. So that's that, Glenn. I hope I hit the button for you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I only met Brian once to just look at the tool, what he's done with AI and how it can be used to frame appropriate answers to the question. And I thought it was really interesting because a lot of times we're looking at what questions do I ask as a coach, right? But the answer part isn't usually the focus of it. And I was curious to see, maybe if I could just ask, all of you here,
Yeah.
would you find it useful in your coaching practice? Is that something that you think would be helpful at all? And maybe just the context of why I ask is because we're always trying to see how we can integrate tools into the platform to make it easier for you to have tools at your fingertips to sharpen your own coaching skills. And I was just trying to see and get feedback to see if you think it's useful, or if you think, be honest, like if you don't think it's going to be useful at all for what you're doing in your coaching. I think in Karen's context, and I'm not sure, Karen, how long did you actually take to learn to use the tool and apply it?
It took, well, first I had to learn how to use it myself. So, and because I was interested in it, it was a very short amount of time to acclimate. So I'd say that I was up and running with this on my own, practicing within my own sphere of communication within about 45 days. And then after that, I started using it with my clients and talking with them about it. And I was pretty upfront with them. I didn't try to hide the fact that this was something new to me that I thought might help them. And working with them together on it, I thought was actually a pretty interesting experience for my initial clients. Now the customers don't know that this was something new. They just think it's part of my practice. With any new skill, as we know, as coaches, it's not something that you go and buy in the store and then bring it back to your office and put it on the shelf. You actually, if you want to use something, if you're going to become an expert at it, you actually have to use it. And so with some focus and dedication, anyone can learn how to do this within 45 to 60 days, I would say. And that practice tool, when it's turned upon yourself, becomes a really terrific way of being able to ramp up your expertise quickly.
Thank you. So thanks, Karen. And we're just after the 45-minute mark. So open up to the floor. Any questions, anything you want to ask specifically about what you would like to see perhaps in the next session, or feel free to drop us an email if you have any questions about what we talked about today.
Thanks for showing up. It was nice to meet you guys. You've got a really wonderful constituency here, Glenn. You're a very lucky man to have so many wonderful, accomplished people working with you to improve their practice. That's really incredible.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone. It was really nice to have you here
Thank you.
to join us. And we'll let you know when the next session is, okay?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.